Well, Andy Beshear started his morning appearing on the national program Morning Joe on MSNBC, quickly endorsing Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. He's also on the list as a potential vice presidential candidate with her. After that interview, the governor talked one-on-one only to WHAS 11's Isaiah Kim Martinez and our senior photojournalist Alyssa Newton. They were there as he told them about his phone call from Kamala Harris.
The governor says when somebody calls, you at least listen. Turns out we're learning that's exactly what he did when Vice President Kamala Harris called just hours after President Biden's announcement on Sunday. Have you had any conversations with the vice president in the last 12 hours or so? Do you plan to?
Well, the vice president reached out to me yesterday, just a couple hours after the president put out the news. And I was very grateful that she would reach out to me personally. She asked for my support. I agreed. And thus this morning I fully endorsed her and will do everything I can to help her win.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear talking to me one-on-one outside the doors of his Frankfort office. He's on a short list of Democrats being considered to be Kamala Harris's running mate. He hasn't said publicly whether he'd entertain the opportunity if asked, but political analysts have noted his ability to win in a deeply red state. But what could you bring as far as what you've learned here in Kentucky, what you've been able to do?
Well, certainly we've shown that we know how to win. We know how to reach across the divide and how to campaign in a way where we talk to people and not at them.
In an interview on MSNBC Monday morning, Beshear wasting no time contrasting himself from the Republican VP pick, Senator J.D. Vance, who has roots in eastern Kentucky.
Let me just tell you that J.D. Vance ain't from here. No, the nerve that he has to call the people of Kentucky, of eastern Kentucky, lazy.
You said, quote, he ain't from here. Where did that come from?
Well, he's not. Listen, this is a person who visited Kentucky during the summers or came for funerals or reunions, and he wants to judge us. These are the hardworking coal miners that built this country.
Meanwhile, Louisville Congressman Morgan McGarvey, a friend of Beshear's, making his own endorsement.
I can't tell you exactly where his head is, but I can tell you what I'd love to see. I would love to see a Harris-Beshear ticket. I think that would be an amazing thing, not just for our Commonwealth, but for our country.
And Doug, real quick, I do want to note that the governor has very much left the door open when it comes to what he would do if Vice President Harris called him and asked him to be on that ticket. He said he would only consider if, it could help out Kentucky and the country in some way, shape, or form. Again, not a yes, but not a no.
You and I were texting each other as he was speaking on Morning Joe, especially when he launched into the J.D. Vance attack, which almost sounded as something he had thought about, as almost talking points of who could be a potential contender if he were to be picked.
It was unprovoked. That's what was interesting. It was within the first 2 minutes. He just starts bringing up the running mate on the other side. Why that's notable, Doug, is, of course, if we have a VP debate down the line, the vice presidential candidates are often known to be the bulldogs in situations. They sometimes will take the shots that they feel like their presidents shouldn't or don't have to. So it was very interesting to see Governor Beshear bring up J.D. Vance, not just once, but twice, saying, again, he ain't from here.